Hey there. Welcome to Millennium Milestone Presents, a site dedicated to storytelling in books, movies, video games, and other exciting genres where nothing would please me more than to walk barefoot through hell, through a billion Legos, than to come back to another Marvel show I absolutely hate. Well, I've come out of hiding once again to review Daredevil Born Again Season 2. Last time I did this series, I was not pleased with the setup for that, and I still have misgivings even about with this season. And I'm not gonna lie, I checked out after watching the first 3 episodes. So that's why it's taken me a while to come back to this, and after binge watching and resisting any urge to gurge anything out of my stomach, I managed to get through this, and to be fair, to be absolutely fair, this is not as terrible as Season 1. Let's get that out of the way very quickly. I do want to tell you that there are good things in the series. Number one, I'll get out of the way right now. It does have the Netflix tone that we've been missing from the original Daredevil series. It has that. I will definitely say that. Wilson Fisk is Wilson Fisk. Matt Murdock is Matt Murdock, though there are some caveats that we will visit in a little bit. But the rest of the show, we definitely have to talk about it.
What do we want to talk about?
And here we go. So, much like Season 1, one of the things that I have noticed that seems to bog down the series, and I'm going to make this the number one thing to talk about, is the supporting characters for the role. The Karen and Foggy replacements suck. We'll start with that. Along with all these extra characters that we keep adding on to the series that just don't seem to help out anyone. Once again, we are added on with the psychiatrist, Heather Glenn, who apparently is now starting to mimic a certain psychotic nature that's very similar to that of the character that tried to kill her last season, Muse. Once again, I'm a little confused as to why we are trying to replace a character that seemed very decent in the comics and now is being replaced by someone who doesn't even add any weight to the story. If you took her out of this and made this a normal paid character who had no ties to anyone, it would still be the same story. Next up, you have Swordsman. Now, I didn't mind this character when he was in the Hawkeye series, but he still stands out as just meaningless in this entire story. I get he was in last season. He was an aristocrat who was being blackmailed by Fisk to go along with his Red Hook revitalization project. The problem with his character is that he's too much of a lighthearted comedic character that fit better in the series he was in previously. Here you're in Daredevil, which is more of a dark, gritty story, and he just doesn't add anything that really makes you care about him, let alone the rest of the story going on. I would argue that Hector Ayala's story would have worked better in this season if he had not been taken out so soon for the female version, which we'll get to that. But if you couldn't even do that, at the very least, Frank Castle could have been used for this particular spot, but of course Marvel needed to save him for something else in mind.
Mother.
Go home!
Then there's the political theme that's being thrown in this series that really, I'm not gonna lie, I can't unsee it once you see it. But I mentioned this last season when you saw the Fix-It Wilson Fisk hats, that was definitely an homage to a certain political figure, that of Donald Trump, and his MAGA hats, which I'm going to say very outright. That is, this is definitely a series that's kind of geared towards pointing the finger and giving the finger to a certain political figure. I said it before, sometimes it's okay to have political themes, but when there's too much of the real thrown into something, you kind of lose your audience very quickly when you're just going for laughs. This is the same problem that's suffering from The Boys right now, because the creator for that series has gone on record saying that he's after Donald Trump. He really wants to hit on right-wing people for all their beliefs and everything. And okay, fine, you want to believe a certain thing, that's fine, but leave it out of our entertainment.
Everyone remain calm. We're all very special people.
Then, as if there isn't another wash, rinse, repeat theme that almost Hollywood loves to throw at us, it's the good old, tried and true Mary Sue archetype that tends to be thrown in here more often than not. Starting with Karen Page. Now, again, to play out some fair points here before I really get into this, Karen Page as a whole is a whole much better character from the comics in the Daredevil series as a whole. Bringing her back was a good decision. How they're bringing her back is starting to wear thin on my patience, and I don't know if other people feel the same way, but this is my take on it. Why are we making her on the same level of characters like Elektra and Daredevil? She has no training. She was a lawyer, or at least not even a lawyer. She was learning to be a lawyer, working with Foggy and Matt initially when the series started. So how did we go from that to jumping to now she can do flips, kicks, and beat 100-pound plus men that are stronger than her, that are police officers? Hollywood, please, make this make sense. And now we get on to our main character, Matt Murdock, aka Daredevil. Now, overall, Matt's story has been decent for the most part. His journey going from the death of Foggy to now has been spotty in some areas, and it feels like, at least in season 2, we have finally started to turn the corner a little bit and give him some more grounded story work that brings him to the finale of this, which I have to say, definitely peaked until this happened.
I am Daredevil.
Wait a minute!
Truth is, I am Iron Man.
No, 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 no.
Well, now that I've gotten my composure back together, forgive me for that reaction early on. How original! How original that was! Tell me that was not a copy-paste of Iron Man 1 to Daredevil 1-to-1. Please, I dare somebody in the comments to try and convince me that this was not a copy of the same thing that happened. Now, don't get me wrong. I know you need a surprising cliffhanger at the end of a season. There are shows like 24. There are shows like 21 Jump Street and other shows in the modern that I can't think of off the top of my head, but those are the ones that came up to mind, that have cliffhangers, and they're important if you want to drive a very important narrative in a season. But it's season 2. This is not season 3, 4, even 5. This was too soon and lame all at the same time. And don't get me wrong, again, I love how Matt's story has kind of improved a little bit in the gist of season 2, but this was not it. This was totally a lame ending to the series that didn't really help much in the long run. To make matters worse, you end the entire season on that and use that to mimically have both characters lose in this, which, okay, fine. There are stories that do that where there isn't a surefire victory. But again, it's Wilson Fisk sent off to an island to never set foot in New York, and Matt goes to prison. Maybe season 3 might find a way to fix that, but judging from what I'm hearing about Daredevil's ratings right now, and this lame ending, I'm not so sure that might happen. So let me see if I got this straight. Disney decided to cancel their original Netflix run of shows like Daredevil, Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, Iron Fist, The Defenders, and so on, to get back all the rights they had to those characters, bring it to Disney Plus, stall for about, give or take 2-3 years, even 4 I think, only to finally give us this. Now, I'm fully aware that this was not a episode-by-episode breakdown like I usually do in some streaming series reviews, but like I said before, I checked out of the series after 3 because, quite frankly, this was a boring series to begin with. That's how I felt about it. Maybe some of you were able to push through and enjoy this for what it was. And again, I don't mind if you guys comment and tell me what you thought of it if you had a different take than I did. But this is how I felt. So this is what I have for now, but there's just maybe one more thing to say.
But wait, there's more.
Hey, Frank.
That's right. You didn't think I was just going to stop with season 2 of Daredevil and not address the Punisher One Last Kill, did you? Did you? After the events of Daredevil Born Again season 1, Frank Castle actually escaped Fisk Island and returned to the crime-ridden streets of Little Sicily, where he tries to live a seemingly normal life despite being haunted and tormented by the death of his family years ago. Now, this is not some kind of long-running series. This is a one-shot special that leads up to Spider-Man Brand New Day. However, it's still an interesting story because it ties up some of the loose ends from the arc of the last Punisher season, where he took out the Ganucci family, the ones that were responsible for the death of his family, with the exception of one. Introducing Ma Giannucci, the matriarch of the Giannucci family whom Frank murdered. And now she put a bounty on his head, and all chaos is about to break loose right now. Now, I'm not going to get into heavy spoilers in this one-shot special, but I'll sum it up like this. This entire one-shot special is John Wick meets The Raid thrown together as one. It still has a heavy Punisher narrative that you definitely can get behind here, and you will have a good time watching this. If you're expecting this to connect to something even more important with the overall grand Marvel scheme, aside from Brand New Day, it doesn't present anything new that we don't know about Frank or the overall MCU universe as we've come to know. The reason I decided to highlight this one-shot special is because this is kind of sort of what Daredevil Born Again Season 2 is missing, is that gritty crime noir style that Netflix was known for with this. Daredevil works better under this guise than it does with the superhero-infused theme. So to sum it all up, Daredevil Born Again Season 2, I would give it a thumbs down. It's not that great. I would rate it basically meh, medium at best. As for Punisher One Last Kill, it goes a step beyond what Daredevil Born Again Season 1 could have done. I would give that just right under excellent, but maybe a little bit on just good for the most part. But maybe you guys again have a different take. Let me know what you think in the comments, and you best better believe I'll be back.